you gotta have fun. Like, art has to be fun and has to be playful.
Hey guys, in today's episode we speak with independent comic book artist Dan Ekis. We discuss his Kickstarter Soul of the World and how to market yourself and your art. So please enjoy. Alright, welcome guys. Second episode today. Today we have the talented visual artist Dan Ekis, known for his independent comic book work and also independent animation. So to start this off, I'll get Dan to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about himself.
Sure. Well, Tobias, thank you so much for having me. And hello, everyone in internet land. My name is Dan Ekis, and I make comic books. And I have a background as an independent animator. I've been doing that for about 3 years and decided to make the shift to comics because it's been a lifelong love of mine. So,
yeah, that's one thing. That's awesome. Is like throughout all your content, you show a giant passion for the stuff you do. Like, you see a lot of artists, they sort of just do their work and you're sort of like, are they that into it? But one thing that's I've always liked about your work is the passion you bring. So I think first, like, the main part of this interview is I really want to touch on your Kickstarter you have going right now. Currently, I think, is it 15 days left you have on
something like that. Yeah, I should probably know, but I haven't. It's been so hectic, man. It's been tough to keep track of everything.
Yeah, stressful times. So for everyone that doesn't know, Dan's comic is called Soul of the World, and the Kickstarter was for issue 1, and then the more money raised past the goal, I believe you were talking about releasing other issues. Do you want to just touch on what Soul of the World is about, and also why Kickstarter?
Sure. Yeah, Soul of the World is a fantasy comic book about a band of travelers that face a deadly set of challenges in the desert. And Kickstarter, because my love is visual storytelling and drawing, and specifically writing stories and just basically bringing them to life through visual art. So I'm not as into lettering, doing the speech bubbles and that sort of stuff. So I'm working with Marco Della Verde, who's an Italian letterer and is learning to speak English once I talk to him, but he's actually very good with writing in English and everything. And he's very professional. He's done work for IDW and Arcana and other big name publishers. So basically the money is to pay him to letter the book and to get it printed and shipped, because it's been a lifelong dream of mine to just get my own comic book published and printed and like be able to hold it in my hand. So I'm incredibly grateful that I've had friends, family, people in my audience, and I think yourself, Tobias, you might have even pledged to the campaign. So thank you.
I was there day one. Yeah. Very excited.
High five, bro. Right there. Woo.
That's awesome.
Man. Thank you. And yeah, it's been a dream come true, man. And I'm so excited. I'm really just looking forward to delivering something high quality and getting people's name in the book. So to give them credit, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome. One thing that was besides the awesome artwork and this fantasy story, which I've heard you talk about quite a lot, is to touch base on how you've sort of marketed before the Kickstarter. I think you released. Firstly, I want to touch on how I found Dan. I was working in Melbourne and at a terrible job in a studio, and I was like, I need some interviews or something, and I found an animator, Pat Smith, and I found your channel through an interview, like the only interview online with the independent Pat Smith. So since then, I've rewatched majority of all your interviews. So that's how I found Dan, and then from there, I've just grown to love your stuff. And then the way you marketed the Soul of the World with your production vlogs, they were like 20, 30-minute videos, and you just went right deep. And another thing about Dan is how much marketing knowledge you sort of bring to your art. Do you want to touch on how you come to get those fundamentals and why you think that was important for your Kickstarter?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, well, first, Tobias, I want to say, man, like, I love your YouTube channel and your whole energy and everything. Like, your channel trailer cracks me up every time I see it, man. It's so funny. So like I love your spirit, but yeah, for like in terms of marketing my art, I started off as an independent animator. That's how I began my career. About 3.5 years ago was when I got really serious about doing it. And I learned quickly that being a freelancer is basically being your own boss and running a business. So I was like, I need to get good at this if I want to not go back to working the jobs that I was working that were making me miserable before doing art full time. And so I was like, okay, I got to learn business. I got to learn marketing. I got to learn how to sell things. And basically just dove deep into studying that type of literature and applying it to being an artist. And I've always been fascinated by how people can actually sell things and make money off the internet, but there's not a lot of stuff out there geared towards artists. And I've just been fascinated about how to take like the marketing knowledge that's been applied to every single industry ever. And there are artists who have used the techniques like I talk about in my on my YouTube channel. So it's nothing new. Like it's not like I'm doing anything innovative. I'm just taking what's out there and sharing it with my audience and everything. But yeah, I found that when I finished, I did an animated feature film called Gray Island, and I was trying to figure out how to sell it online to make a little bit of the money back because I put like couple of $1,000 into it and 2 years of my life. So I was like, I need to at least see if I can like make a buck off this. And I think I took like a free online course on how to market and sell your own book because I was studying the sort of independent publishing space where there's a lot of indie authors nowadays who are having very successful book launches online. So I was like, I'm just going to take what they're doing and apply it to selling my animated film as a digital download. And it worked. And, people still buy my film, so thanks everyone who, like if you see the film, it's very experimental, Tobias, and
Yeah.
it's not really like commercial, if that makes any sense. It doesn't look like a Pixar film. It looks like something like a bunch of hipsters would watch in like an obscure cinema somewhere, and like wearing beanie hats but yeah, so that worked and I was like, okay, let's see if this will work for comics as well. And so that was the whole idea behind doing production diaries for Soul of the World and doing these like really long, in-depth, behind the scenes looks at making a comic book and marketing it and attempting to raise the money for it through Kickstarter, but also making it valuable for people so that the whole art community can get something out of my journey. And I'm basically using myself as like a lab rat.
Yeah.
So to sort of test what works. And I mean, I've had minor successes, right? I mean, making a living as an artist for 3.5 years, I consider that a success.
Yeah,
It hasn't been an easy road. Yeah, but it's it's been a bumpy ride, and I've had a lot of failure as well. So I like to share that too, to say like, look, don't do this because I did this and it didn't work out very well. But yeah, and I read this book on how to launch a product, and it's called Launch, I think, by Jeff Walker. And one of the groups that he wrote that book for was artists, and it's all about how to use like pre-launch content, like those production diaries I was doing, in order to pique people's interest. And also, while they're watching that content, you're basically indoctrinating them to be interested in your art. And by the end of it, they're ready to, put money up. So, and it seemed to work. I only put out 2 of those videos and I had a great response from everyone. And it seems to be helpful for people, which I'm glad. But yeah, and I definitely think that was a big factor in having a successful Kickstarter because we raised the $2,000. Not a lot of money, but that's all we needed for the first issue, and we raised it in like a week. So
yeah, that's great. That's yeah. You talking about that, and I think one thing that you touched on just at the end there was how in a lot of your content you do touch on your failures a lot. Like when in your interviews, you sort of get the creator also to talk about, like with your Will Terry interviews that I watched recently. He touched a lot on his failures before his success. And I think as an audience member of yours, and also probably yourself, that's one thing that's really good to relate to. Is you see these artists on Instagram and that, and they quick sketch, and it's like it would have taken a week, and they never post any stuff that you sort of like anything that's manageable. Yeah. So now that you've been successful with your Kickstarter, what do you think is the future of Soul of the World? Are you going to try and I'm not sure, what was the stretch goal to get issue 2 to be out? Was that 3,000 or 4,000?
I think it's 3,500 we want to get, and I mean, there's a chance we can hit it. We're still getting new people pledging all the time, and we do have a limited number of hard copies for people that want that, because I wanted to really incentivize people to pledge right away. So, and I think that was another big thing, was having a limited number of copies, and I knew the hard copy was something people were really going to want, because I just asked everyone, like, what kind of Kickstarter rewards do you guys like? And yeah, I think 3,500 we want to get to.
Yeah, awesome. So once, because you guys are quite close to that, I'm pretty sure. I can't remember what the exact number was. And Kickstarter for me does the Australian currency. So like I see it, I'm like, oh wow, and then in little tiny font it says the American one. But after this Kickstarter, of course you'll finish issue 1 and you finish the other issues. But what's the future hold for the rest of the comics and for you after the campaign's all done and dusted?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, sorry, I kind of just forgot your question.
That's right. I had to reiterate because I forgot it myself.
Yeah, so the future of Soul of the World is, I just want to get it finished. Like, I'm on track to finish drawing the book and having all the artwork done. The story's finished, and I've had it reviewed. I'm in a writer's critique group, which I highly recommend. If you're an animator or comic artist or any type of visual storyteller, if you can join some sort of critique group where they can look at your scripts, it's been very beneficial for me in strengthening the story, because there's professional fiction authors in there. They're not really artists, but they know about fantasy and how to tell a good story that way. So, I've made a lot of friends there, and they've helped me out. But the future is basically just get it finished. Even if it's just a digital release, I'd be happy with that. I do plan on doing more physical book launches, because people seem to like that the best,
Yeah.
So I don't know about Soul of the World. I kind of have this other project that I really just want to get onto after Soul of the World. So I think worst case scenario, I would like to just raise enough money, whether through the Kickstarter, which we've already raised enough to have the second issue lettered, I'm pretty sure. Crossing my fingers, unless I get hit with any like crazy shipping offers or whatever, or shipping costs. But I just want to get it like drawn, lettered, have a digital release, and then maybe down the line, if there's a big enough demand for it, I'll do printings of all the other issues.
Awesome. So much to think about, yeah. Because with Kickstarter, one thing is like, because I've really considered potentially thinking about that avenue, but like the planning and your perks and everything is such a scary process. That's why, like, when I saw yours, it was like the limited hard copies. I was like, so smart. Such a good idea, because as you said, it's an incentive. And then also I've heard so many like comic book artists that have done Kickstarters, the thing that hits them is the post. Like when Kickstarter first started, they'd do these massive, like, and they'd get so much money, and then they lose it all to postage and handling and ridiculous awards. It's just, yeah. So I think, I think one thing with the Kickstarter and with yours as well is the research to figure out what are good perks that people are gonna want, and also won't tarnish the money you earn from the reward. The next question I want to talk about is just because I'm a bit of a geek and hearing about what inspires people, is what has inspired you to be a visual artist? Like who, maybe there's some books, some illustrators, anything like that really inspired you to go, I'll do it myself?
Yeah, well, I've been doing it as far back as I can remember. I actually, in one of the production diaries, I sort of talk about when I was a kid, and I love to draw comic books, and that's kind of why I do what I do. Like, I've just never, that's all I've ever known, really.
Yeah.
And I went I was digging through this room in my mom's house, and she saved all my old comic books that I made when I was a kid, and all these like picture books that I'd make. And I started like age 2, I started scribbling on paper, and like age 4, it was like really young. Like looking back, I was like, whoa, I was that young. But and I'm sure it's like that for you and a lot of other people, you know. But what really inspired me, I can remember when I was a kid, was I didn't have cable television, so I only had like 5 channels to watch, and I didn't have everyone. I don't know if you guys had Nintendo 64 in Australia.
Definitely did. It's my childhood right there.
Yeah, there you go. See,
Yeah.
and that was the childhood of all my friends. When I was a kid, I didn't have N64. The first one I had was like PlayStation, and I wasn't really into sports when I was a kid. You know, I played sports, but I wasn't. It wasn't my heart. My heart
Yeah.
wasn't there for it. So I would just spend like all my time cooped up in my room drawing aliens and writing stories and things like that. And my mom would buy us like VHS movies because we didn't have cable, so we would have stuff to watch like Disney, and I would go to my grandma's and watch Star Wars. And so just seeing these fantasy worlds being brought to life by grown-ups was a
Yeah.
big thing for me. Like, oh, they're doing what I want to do. Like, and I would read comic books from the library and from this convenience store I used to ride my bike to all the time when I was younger. So really just seeing that as a possibility, like, oh, I can do that with my life. That was what inspired me from an early age. And then growing up, you know, you kind of get pulled around by the external forces in your life. You have parents and friends, and there's all this pressure to be and do certain things. And I sort of fell into that like peer pressure through high school and college. And I kind of just let myself get off track. And like I was still writing stories and drawing, and I was going to school for animation, but I wasn't like serious about it, you know. And when I got out of school, I was like really depressed because I'd basically spent the past 8 years trying to impress people and not being myself. And I was like, man, this is a losing game. Like I just got to do me. I got to be Dan, and Dan likes aliens and weird science fiction and fantasy stories, so that's what I got to do. And that was what really it brought me out of that. It was a really dark period of my life, but art really brought me out of it, and animation specifically because I made a short film. I did a music video for a friend of mine, and then I did the feature film, and that really took me to a new level. And then just realizing making a 65-minute animated film is like, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It was
65
like,
minutes. Oh god.
I
That's
was
such
like,
a
if I can do
massive
that,
task.
yeah. But it's such a confidence boost too. And the thing that gave me the confidence to make that was making little 5-second films, because my whole life I had all these ideas. And you can tell me if I start rambling.
No,
I'm
no,
sorry.
this is good. This is good.
But I always had all these ideas growing up, you know, and I never made them into anything. I never had the work ethic to do so. And just making little animated projects, like I would force myself to make like a 5-second film. Like I had an idea for a character, like let's just bring that to life. And doing really short little projects like that gave me the confidence to be like, you know, I can actually finish things. I can actually bring my ideas to life. And especially doing a short film and like a music video, I was like, I can finish bigger projects, right? And I'm like, well, if I can do 5 minutes of animation, I could do 60, right? You just break it down, you know, and you can. Like anybody listening, if you can do 1 second of animation, you can do a whole feature. Like it's just, you know, it takes time and you got to be focused, and you got to love what you're doing. But yeah, I forget what the question was. I think I trailed off.
What inspired you to sort of do what you do?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I was inspired for animation by Bill Plimpton, Ralph Bakshi, you know, my friend Jim Lujan, and like all these like independent animators who were sort of like doing their own thing. And I was like, that's so cool. Like, you know, because I love Disney and I love DreamWorks and all the studio films that they put out. You know, those artists are just on another level. So I love those films, but I've always been fascinated by the idea how like one person can just have a vision and just turn
Yeah,
it into something. And like I
100%.
have my own stories. Like I wouldn't be happy working for Disney, at least not right now. I don't think. So
Not on
what
Wreck-It
yeah,
Ralph
that's what
2.
inspired. What's that?
Not on Wreck-It Ralph 2 anyway.
Oh, are they making that?
Yeah, yeah, it's about the internet, so looks like the
Ah, instead of an arcade, he's going through websites.
yeah. So we'll see how that turns out.
Well, they're gonna have to keep it PG, so
Yeah, well, that's half the internet gone. It's
yeah. I think it's 90% of the internet gone.
pretty much. Um, so another thing I wanted to touch on is we've talked about how you market on your social media, what's
Yeah.
inspired you, your Kickstarter, which is the main focus of today's interview. I wanted to just quickly touch on you have your sort of own social club where you're running events and stuff called the Kid Millionaire Club. Do you want to just touch on that for any of the listeners that maybe want to get involved with a artist club? Because I know it's as an artist myself, it's kind of you're in the air trying to find people that are doing the same stuff, and you feel like a bit of a dick on Twitter, like, oh, trying to comment to someone and you don't get a response and stuff like that. Trying to find a community
Mhm.
in the landscape. So if you want to just touch on what Kid Millionaire Club is and what are some of the incentives for some artists to join.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, the Kid Millionaire Clubhouse, kidmillionaireclubhouse.com, if anyone wants to look into it. Basically, we're an online community of artists geared towards helping you get 1,000 followers that will pay for your art. Because I found with myself, like I said, I've always been fascinated. Like, how can I take the things in my imagination and turn it into something that'll help me pay the bills and be fulfilling work and like a sustainable career. And I found that a lot of my friends and a lot of the people in my audience are that's their primary concern as well. Like, how do we actually make this into a career? And so we don't have to work for people doing work we hate for the rest of our life, right? And so that's the goal. It's to help artists just build their audience and monetize their ideas. And the way we do it mainly is obviously we have like a private community where we help each other market. And, you know, people will say, like, hey, guys, I'm looking to get commissions. Can you guys share my page? Things like that. But we do master classes with artists who are making a living as artists and can give us step by step tips on how to how they're doing it basically. So we just had like we had Bill Plimpton and we had Jason Brubaker, he used to work for DreamWorks as an artist, and now he does his own graphic novels and comic books for a living. And we're in talks with another artist right now who I can't really announce yet, but I'll be announcing very soon. And I'm really excited. So it's all people who basically know how, you know, to pay the bills with art,
Yeah.
and they're just because they don't teach you this stuff in school. Like, I don't know about if you went to school. Did you go to school for animation?
Yeah, I went to it was mainly a 3D course, so I didn't really learn anything, but yeah, I did study animation.
So they taught you software and stuff,
Yeah,
right?
it was. I know from a lot of people, especially in Australia, a lot of the universities, it's just quick courses, just teaching you the software, and that's it. None of the business, none of the application of how to do it.
Yeah.
Besides just chucking some things on in the computer and making it move, there's so much more that has to be taught post
Oh yeah.
university. Yeah.
Yeah. Did they teach you guys how to get jobs in studios, like how to put together a demo reel and stuff like that?
I wouldn't say so. I was fortunate enough to be very stubborn. So in my final year, we had to do a 20-minute research paper. So I did mine on marketing yourself as an animator to also one to learn it and to get marks, but also to sort of influence the younger years because like not many of them knew. So that helped a lot. But
Yeah.
yeah, the marketing and contacting clients and studios is such a like people are still they'll finish their university degree and then 8 years later they're still googling how to email Nickelodeon and stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like I can say the school I went to was great. The professors were fantastic. All the art professors and everybody. Um, and they were all industry veterans or very successful independent animators, like people who worked on The Lion King, Sesame Street, and like you name it. But they were basically prepping us to, they were grooming us to be hired by studios, right? And that wasn't necessarily the path I wanted to take. So I was like, well, how do you just do your own thing and make money? They didn't teach us that. So that's the Kid Millionaire Clubhouse. I'm like, that's what I want that to be. I always knew, because the Kid Millionaire name started when I was an independent animator, and I had to incorporate it as a business in America. And I was like, I need to give it a name. So I was like, Kid Millionaire. It's like, if you could write your 7-year-old self $1 million check, right? You wouldn't be doing like corporate animations. You'd be doing like 65-minute animated feature films with giant chicken robots shooting laser bolts out of their mouth, right? So, and I always knew that Kid Millionaire was going to be something bigger than me.
Yep.
And I was thinking, like, is that supposed to be an animation studio? Like, what is my bigger vision that I'm supposed to do? And I found it just having this community where we can help artists and empower them to do what we all want to do, which is, work on our art all day, every day, right? So that's been the main driving force behind it. And, I just wanted to do things. I'm sort of overdoing work that I hate. And I'm fortunately at a point in my career where I can turn down a lot of work because I'm making enough, from the clients that I like to work with and everything. Yeah. But I'm like, if I'm going to do any kind of business endeavor, like at all, I want it to be something that I actually care about and that means something to me. And the Clubhouse is that.
Awesome. So once again, that was kidmillionaireclubhouse.com. I'll link it anyway, so the people that view can have a look. So we'll kind of start wrapping it up because I don't want to take too much of your time. But I just wanted to...
you're good. I actually called off my next meeting, so
awesome.
Take your time.
Thank you. So this is a question I like to... I skipped a question. Is any advice for young artists that want to make independent animation, because you've done that, and also or make independent comics? Just advice for young artists to sort of want to either do their own thing or just try and make money doing whatever they want to do.
Yeah. I mean, I got a lot. I would say the biggest thing that I always tell people is ask yourself why you're doing what you're doing. Because I went to school for animation because I love to tell stories through art, right? And when I got out of school, I had all this knowledge of software and stuff and 3D modeling, and I was like going after these 3D modeling jobs for like architectural firms, and you know what I mean, like things that have nothing to do with telling visual stories. And
yeah,
so I'm a huge proponent of. And like I wound up doing, as an independent animator, I would have producers ask like, hey, can you also edit videos? And I'd be like, yeah, sure. And there was a point where I wound up like editing videos for law firms, and the client was really cool, and I'm friends with him to this day. But I got to the point I was like, why am I doing this? Like, what does this have to do with drawing or like anything? Right?
Yeah.
So ask yourself why you do what you do, because it's so important, because otherwise you're going to drift off course. And you're going to wind up doing work that makes you miserable. And I've seen a lot of artists and a lot of my friends even, they're just doing what they think they're supposed to do, not what they actually want to do. So get really clear on that. If you want to make money off of your art, I would say you need to read books because that's what's done it for me. When I started off as an animator, I was like, I don't know how to get freelance clients. Like, I have no idea how to do that. So I got this book on it was called Get Clients Now by CJ Hayden, I think was the lady's name that wrote it. But it was all just like, here's how you market yourself and get people to pay you to do whatever you want to do. And it worked, right? Like 4 months later, I'm animating a commercial and designing characters. And I'm like, whoa. So read books on business, marketing, and sales. Things that you would normally think like, well, what does that have to do with art? Well, it's like, if you want to market yourself as an artist, if you want to be able to sell your art, you need to study this stuff. Like there's these universal principles that apply to any sort of business endeavor, any industry, and it all applies to being an artist. So read books that you wouldn't normally think that you would have to read, but that will give you the knowledge to then apply and form the skills that you're going to need to make money off your art. And I'd say always have money coming in somehow.
Yep.
I think I wrote a list because you sent me this document, and this was the one I actually made a list for because there's a lot. But always have money coming in somehow, because otherwise, like, you're dead in the water. And a big mistake I made making my animated film, Tobias, was I was like, oh, at the end of this is going to launch my career and everything's going to be great. And I won't have to, I can make money doing what I want. And I made it. And it's like, maybe 100 people cared. I didn't get on Cartoon Brew. They didn't email me back. Like, I didn't get as much publicity as I thought I would. And I was actually turning down work to work on the film. So that was really bad. And that's why I went broke, basically, because I didn't have a steady cash flow coming in. So you always, if you have to have a day job at the beginning, do it, right? If you can freelance, that's even better, because then you have flexibility, but you have to have the discipline to say, look, have a quota, every week. Like, I got to make $1,000 this week, or, whatever it is, $1,000, and just always have that money coming in, and be smart with how you manage it, because then you can invest it back into your work. If you're making animation, you want to hire a composer, you got to have money to do that, because otherwise, you can't really expect people to work for free. It just doesn't work very well. And so always have money coming in, and you'll be good. And set up multiple income streams, and especially passive income. This is one thing Jason Brubaker talked with us about in the clubhouse. He was saying you need to be able to make money while you're sleeping, essentially. And what that means is, like, most people think, if I want to make more money as an artist, I need to do more work. It's like, no, you need to set up something that's going to make you money while you're working, right? So that the clubhouse is eventually, I want it to be a passive income stream that I can then allocate that money back into the free content that I create. And also, I'd love to be able to do like a grant, like give grant money to artists and just put it back into the art community. But at the end of the day, like, it's, I also want it to be something that'll help fund my whole operation. And same with comic books, like the sales of the books themselves, I want to set that up so it's automatic, so that while I'm in the studio drawing, someone's buying my comic book, I don't have to worry about shipping it out. Like, I can hire someone to take care of that and everything. And that's something I don't know a lot about, but Jason breaks it down really good in like the master class he did with us. But multiple income streams, it's just really important, because basically, I mean, when I was freelancing, there's dry spells. I don't know. Do you freelance, Tobias?
Yeah, I freelance. There's dry spells all the time. You're like,
I'm
on top of the world, and then it's like a week later, you're like, I have no jobs.
Are you doing it full time too?
Yeah, I'm doing it full time, but then I'm also just because the place I worked before I finished university, I still go help out there because they're peaking in business right now. So I just go out and help in the kitchen, a couple of days a month. So I just that helps a little bit, but like mainly just full time freelance.
Yeah, awesome, man. Yeah, so I mean, when it rains, it pours, right? And it's like a lot of times the work will be coming in steady, and you think, oh, everything's great, and then it's like the seasons, right? In the summer, you got to worry about planting crops and getting ready for the harvest, because winter's going to come, and you got to make sure you have food stocked up, basically. And it's the same thing being an artist. You always got to be thinking about, like, if things are good, things are about to get bad. So get ready. Yeah. Like, I don't want to sound bleak or, discourage anyone, because it's absolutely doable, right? Because we're doing it. But what were we saying? Oh yeah, multiple income streams, because when those tough times hit, you're gonna have more support for yourself. I always say, think about it like a house on stilts. If multiple stilts, multiple pillars holding your house up. If a hurricane or a flood comes through, one of those pillars gets knocked out, your house is still standing.
Yeah.
Right. But if you prop your house up on one little beam, like, good luck with that thing, you're done. So, I mean, planes have more than one engine, right? So they can make emergency landings if one goes out. And it's the same thing being an artist. So just, set up ways that you can have money coming in to fund your operation. And let's see what else I got on this long list. And you can cut me off if you have to, but
just adding to that, multiple, like having a foundation of money behind you, be it spending as little as possible when you're getting money, which is sort of how I sort of do things. Like you hear of giant creators like my hero John Kay. His first studio job he talks about a lot is he got in and went gung-ho with the money because he's making big bank as an artist, and then the layoff season hits, like in all TV animation, and he was looking around like, oh, what's the go now? And it's like, oh, well, you sit around for 6 months with the money you saved up, and he's like, I don't have any saved up money. So like even in the studio system you have to have a foundation to support you. Independent, it's a lot more you got to be a lot smarter than just saving the bank. But yeah, I think the multiple streams, I'm very interested to hear about that passive income. I need to check out that masterclass from Jason, because yeah, that's something I never really clicked in my head. Now that you've said it, it's like that makes complete sense, like having something that's paying the bills whilst you're working on something else.
yeah. I mean, it makes sense because everyone thinks like, well, I want to make a sustainable living and be able to draw all day every day, right? And it's like, people aren't paying you to draw, they're paying you for the things that you create.
Yeah.
Or the value you provide for them in whatever form that takes. And this is why a lot of artists will do Photoshop brushes. They'll do tutorials that they sell on Gumroad.
Yep.
Right? Because this is money that they can make while they're in the studio, and there's no order fulfillment. It's no extra work for someone to click a button and buy something from you. So that's the idea, yeah. And I'm a big proponent of that. That's a great point. Like you were saying about the studio system, I've heard the same thing from the game industry. Concept artists, they're all like, you gotta like stock money up. You gotta,
yeah, it's crazy.
Like because it's a project to project basis, basically. And other things I would say, if you are an independent, if you're freelancing, plan your day out. This has really helped me out, because if you're just waking up and you're at effect to everything that's going on, it's like, oh, I got deadlines for these people, and oh, I'm worried about this and that. Like, you're being pulled in all these different directions. You're not going to be as effective. But if you have a routine for in the morning, for instance, I wake up, I stretch, I meditate, I do things that help relieve stress. That's a big thing. You got to, make sure you're maintaining stress, because it is stressful. And then I write. I start my day off. I write, read, and I draw for 3 hours before the sun even comes up. So those are the things I love to do more than anything in the world. So if I start my day doing those, it sets the tone for the day really well.
Yep.
And it's like, I don't have to feel rushed when I'm working for my clients. I have a clear mind, like, okay, I've worked on Soul of the World today, right? So I can work for everyone else for a few more hours. But just blocking out your day, and in the morning, before I start doing client work, I'll be like, okay, who do I need to work for today? Who needs what from me? This person needs a contract. This person needs animations. Person needs an illustration, whatever it is, and block out. Okay, from 10 a.m. to noon, I'm going to be working for this person. Discipline equals freedom is the saying that I've heard. If you're really disciplined about how you spend your time and your work schedule and everything, at the end of the day, you're going to be like, well, I actually got everything done. Now I have a few hours to draw, or just go outside, or hang out with your girlfriend, whatever you want to do, right?
Yeah.
So that's a huge thing. Just be real disciplined and intentional. And the last thing, there's a lot more. Just go watch my YouTube channel, because there's so much to being an artist. That's why I'm doing the YouTube channel, and I do an email newsletter and everything, because it's like, you can't just pack all this into like
Yeah, into
a
10 minutes.
bite-sized.
Yeah.
So I apologize. I'm gonna do my best for you guys, but
No, you're going good. It's good.
uh,
This is like the stuff that I know when I was younger. It's the type of shit you need to hear to sort of get your mind around stuff.
yeah. Well, practicality is
Yeah.
what it is, man. And yeah, it's like you gotta. It's one thing to have these big dreams and these grandiose ideas and goals, but you got to sit down and break it down. Like, okay, like, yeah, shoot for the stars. Ain't, dream big. Absolutely. But then sit down and be like, all right, what are three things that I need to do to make this happen? That's a big one that I've been doing lately. It's like, what are the three biggest things I can focus on in order to move this mountain? And just getting like super, intentional about what are the steps I need to take to make this a reality. Because you can do anything you set your mind to.
For
It's
sure.
all about, just yeah, it's just taking the right steps. And you're not always going to know. Sometimes it takes trial and error or learning from other people. That's why I talk to other artists like yourself, man, because like I don't know everything.
Yeah.
And you have insights that I don't have. So like watching your YouTube channel or talking to Will Terry or anybody, just make friends in the art community and ask them like, well, what's working for you? And just never think that you have things all figured out, because I've seen people who get to that point and it's like there's a lot you don't know that I know, man. like you don't know everything. You think you do. And I'm always on guard for that with myself. It's
Yeah.
the ego. It's like thinking that, oh, I got this in the bag. It's like, and as soon as you think that, something's going to change, and the hurricane's going to come, winter's going to come, something bad's going to happen. So just always be learning, read books and make friends and learn from them, ask questions, be curious. That's the thing, like doing these interviews that you're doing, Tobias, is you're curious.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things I've seen with the artists I look up to that are really successful. They're curious. They don't, they never stop questioning and digging deeper into things. So you got to do that in whatever form that takes. But I would say the last point that I had, and then I'll shut up because I've been talking for like 10 minutes, I think, is have fun, because I mentioned this in one of my YouTube videos recently. You got to have fun. Like art has to be fun and has to be playful. And yes, you're running a business. Yes, you got to keep the gears turning and worrying about keeping the ship afloat. But, and it's a struggle. This is the thing, is like, it is tough. I don't got to tell you, but for
Yeah.
anyone listening, if you're just starting out, like it's hard at first, but space shuttle uses most of its fuel during takeoff, and once it gets into orbit, it's able to just kind of coast, right? And you're never going to be able to just coast, but you're going to use most of your energy, and it's going to feel like an uphill battle at first until you get coasting on that momentum.
Yeah.
But don't let that make you like feel sorry for yourself, because you're going to get kicked between the legs. Like you're gonna, like, life is so unfair and so hard to everyone, and as soon as you start feeling like a victim, you've lost. Like I was reading this interview with this Navy SEAL, and he was basically saying like, if you give in to self-pity, you're dead. And that's an extreme example because that's the military.
Yeah.
But you think about it, it's true. It's like, what do you think soldiers in the Middle East fighting terrorists, what are they going to like cry because like, oh, the terrorists have us pinned down. They won't let us get to our helicopter. Oh man, it's like, well, you're dead. Like, and if you're an artist, if you start doing that, like, oh, nobody wants to buy my art, it's like, I mean, it sounds cruel to say that, but it's like, do something about it. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna die. You're gonna be done. You're gonna have to go work at McDonald's or whatever. Like, so, and I did that for years. Okay, so this is why I'm saying it, because it held me back. I wasn't focused on making art. I wasn't focused on having fun, making friends, and providing value for other people. And really, just if you take the focus off yourself, you'd be less self-absorbed and think about, there's this planet that we live on that has what is it, like 8 billion people or something crazy.
Something ridiculous.
Like I never had friends in Australia before I started, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it
just
is
put myself
crazy.
out there. It's amazing, right? And the world is so much bigger than you. And think about, well, how can I have my art contribute something valuable? You've been drafted to Team Humanity, so while you're in the game, you better make some good plays, right? And do that with the things that you love to do, animation, art, whatever it is, and just have fun with it. Because if you feel sorry for yourself, like, you're not focused on how you can provide value for others, and you're not going to be able to build a following, right? You're going to have a hard time building an audience because you're so self-absorbed. You're not thinking about others, and it's going to be a lot harder to make money because you're constantly looking at what's going wrong and how life is unfair. And yeah, it's unfair. That's the name of the game. You got to see every bad thing that happens to you as a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, my depression, that I was like more depressed than I'd ever been in my entire life. It was hell. I was waiting to, like, get struck by lightning and die. I was like, this is, like, horrible. Like, I don't want to live like this forever. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me because I was like, I got to fight. I got to get out of this. Right. So have fun. Don't kick the
Enjoy what you're
self-pity
doing.
and enjoy it, man.
Yeah.
That's it. All right. I'm done.
No, that's really good. I think that's as someone who's animates freelance, I find a lot of the time I'm being asked to do like rigged animation, and that's just
Yeah.
for me. That's just like the last thing I want to do. And for a while, like I did a studio job for a couple of months doing rigged animation, and then I did a couple of freelance gigs. And now from now on, it's like can't do it. Doesn't matter the size of the job. One, I just suck using rigs, and two, it's so bad for me and my motivation. I did a job recently that just absolutely destroyed me, and for like a week I had no energy. I didn't do anything. I was dead after just like crunching on this freelance gig. So yeah, just find what is like if you want to draw, if you want to color, all you want to do is color, just color. Find a way to make that what you do. So I think your advice is pretty on point. And you sort of touched on this, and I was going to butt in and defer it to the next question, but what you were saying was so good. Is I like to ask the interviewees like recommended reading or viewing, like what are some books or some movies, some cartoons, or anything that you'd recommend? Like, it doesn't have to be inspiring or influential. It can just be fun or just like some good stuff you recommend people should watch.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say whatever you're into, you should definitely go after that, because I'm into really weird films. I'm into comic books, like fantasy and science. I'm not so into superhero comics as much as I was like in high school and when I was younger. I still love Batman and everything, but I'm just not as into that
Yeah.
anymore. So like the comics I read, it's more fantasy. It's more like adventure stuff. I'm looking around my studio, seeing what I got.
I did the same
um,
thing. Oh, quick, where can I find something?
yeah. And I should say your studio is way cooler than mine. I need more like
Oh yeah, I got
figurines and
like
stuff like that.
all the clients I ever have to Skype with, like they don't care about me once they see my figures. It's like, oh, hi, yeah, but yeah,
Oh
I got
yeah, it's so cool.
yeah, I like me some action figures.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, yeah, definitely whatever you're interested in, dive deep into that. And I love mythology, I love history and philosophy and all these really pretentious academic type of subjects. And if you're into that stuff, dig deep into it. And also, I would say don't shelter yourself from things that you're maybe not as interested in, because there's so much you can learn from types of music that you don't like, or types of films or cinema that you're not as into, right?
Yeah,
Or if there's an art style that's like, oh, I'm not as into that type of art style. Well, there's something you can learn from that, and it's actually going to expand your awareness, and you're going to expand your creative vocabulary, so to speak. Have more to draw from when you sit down to create. So that's a general. If you want specific stuff, The War of Art is very good. That's like I think every artist should either read or listen to. I like to listen to audiobooks while I draw. So it's on Audible. The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield is really good.
Yep.
If you want a basic primer on personal development, which I think is also really important for artists, I think it's called You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. And it's a really good book. And it runs the gamut from like money to like goal setting to stress management, like all the things that you need to know to be an artist. That's really good. If you want to build a following, I'd recommend leadership books. Dr. Henry Cloud is really good. And who's the other guy? I can't remember. Just look up like 5 levels of John C. Maxwell. If you want to build a following, like you got to learn how to be a good leader. John C. Maxwell is like the authority on leadership books. In terms of like animation, I'm into really avant-garde stuff, obviously, and like independent type of stuff. Mostly, I like Marcel Jankovic, who's a European director. He's one of my favorites. And Ralph Bakshi was one of my favorite American ones. But yeah, whatever you're into, but also be open to things that you wouldn't think would be helpful to you. Like I said, the reason I started my career as an animator was reading a marketing book, and like I never could have seen that coming, right?
Yeah.
They didn't tell me that in school. So be open, keep an open mind. Yeah.
Just be a sponge. Talking about Ralph Bakshi, he'd have to be one of the funniest dudes that I've ever seen be interviewed. He's so blunt and so like, I don't know if you've seen the video. He has a video how he's getting interviewed at a Comic-Con, and he talks about sort of what we've talked about, but so more aggressively is like, you have a computer, you can literally do it. Like, stop sitting around. Like, he's so rude to everyone in the panel. It's fantastic.
That video actually was one of the things that inspired me when I was making my feature.
Like,
I was like you can do it. You need someone to pay you, like just do it. Yeah.
So we'll finish up. The way I like to finish up is I'll just get you to just shout out some of the links or where people can find your work. I know that you're pretty much on all platforms. I follow you pretty much on all of them except for Facebook because I hate Facebook. So I'll get you to I'll definitely want everyone who listens and watches to go to the first link in the bio for Soul of the World. You have 15 days. I think the lowest tier is it $5? The lowest tier for the digital? Yeah.
$5 for a digital, yeah.
Yeah.
And you'll get your name in the book. If you just want to get your name in the book, $5 American dollars. That's it. Yeah.
So everyone that listens, check it out, and I hope you guys donate the $5. Let's get Dan to get issue 2 printed. Help him out. But I'll get Dan to just shout out some of his social media links so people can follow you there. Because I know that definitely his YouTube is a big one that I love. Because I think is it weekly videos? You pump out weekly.
Well, I've been doing weekly for a couple months now, and it's doable for me. So yeah,
it's great because once a week I'll sit there and be like, oh yes, 40-minute video. Pop the headphones on, listen to some great content. Yeah. So definitely check out. I'll get you to shout out. It's Dan Ekis just on YouTube?
Yeah, I'd say if you want to follow me, go to danekis.com, danekis.com, and I have everything on my homepage, the link to my Kickstarter, link to my YouTube channel, my email newsletter, and the only thing I don't have on there is my Instagram, so I'll actually add that right after this interview so people can just find it on my website. danekis.com is the best place for everything. It's the hub.
Fantastic. So. Well, thank you so much, Dan, for being a part of this. I hope you all the best for getting issue 2, hitting that goal for issue 2. And I know that we'll keep in touch through social media. And just thank you for coming along. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that interview, and I hope you got some insight into some of the creative process. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more interviews and also production vlogs. And I will see you guys next time.